Lone Star is about a con man, a young con man who's raised by his father. He doesn't know anything better than how to con. That's how he makes his ends meet. That's how he gets through life. And what happens is he ends up falling in love with two of his marks, with these two women in his life. And the reason he's such a good con man is because he's very genuine, and people buy into them, and he makes connections with people. And that's also his greatest flaw, because you're not supposed to, but he falls in love with his marks. And so now you will find yourself, and the audience will find themselves watching a guy who's playing with fire, trying to keep the world, just hold it all up above his head and keep these two lives alive in the name of love, but lying and conning people along the way to do so. So it's an interesting journey that he's going to go on.
Things that I thought was done really well, especially in the pilot, is you feel a lot of sympathy and empathy for your character. Do you worry that people are going to, have ill will towards you for, deceiving these two women and basically conning? I mean, how do you find that the directors and the writers are finding that balance?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of these women that I'm conning is to my left. Eloise plays Lindsay in Midland, and as anyone can see, I would hate anyone to con her too, of how lovely and wonderful she is, and her character is equally so. And so I think that is going to be, hopefully, the water cooler talk will be one person saying, oh, I really wanted Bob to, he almost got caught doing this, and somebody's going to say, how are you rooting for this guy? He's conning these women. So that is the exciting element of the show, and I think it certainly will be a challenge, but an exciting challenge artistically for the writers and for the cast and for myself to continue to keep that, to keep him a protagonist. Right. And I think he's not always going to make the right choice. He's clearly a flawed character, but ultimately, if the audience can believe, which I believe he has a good heart, then that's something they're going to want to root for.
And I think that shows like Dexter have shown that audiences love to have a villain that you like, and you feel so twisted for liking them. True Blood kind of has the same thing going as far as those vampires, But there's something about watching a character who you don't agree with their actions, but you still kind of like it.
As an actor, do you feel, do you have any nuances between Robert and Bob? Do you kind of approach them or think of them as different characters, or kind of all as one?
Yes, that's a really good question. Yeah. Well, Robert and Bob are the same person essentially. It's Bob playing Robert, and so I think there is differences between them, because a con man is an actor in and of himself. You have to get people to believe in what you're doing. You're acting as a con man. And so when Bob is in Houston, or when Robert is in Houston and he's playing Bob Taylor, he has to play that. He has to carry himself more eloquently. He has to be able to walk into a room and demand the attention of 40 board members in order to successfully make John Voight Clint want him to run the company. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I think I'll be playing Bob, and Bob will be playing Robert. And you know what I'm saying? It's going to be fun to play in those two worlds. That's what's exciting for me as a character, is he gets to kind of go into these situations and play different roles. And see, I think too is I think Bob can take a breath of fresh air when he's in Midland, and he can kind of let his guard down a little bit. And what's going to happen is he's eventually not going to be able to let his guard down there, and that's what's going to be tough for him. But like Midland, I think for him is a place where he can just go and be. And even though he's not entirely himself, he can really be. He can let that guard down and just be a little bit more vulnerable there.
He's staying with it because there seems to be a desperation to leave this con man life behind.
Yeah.
Is it just his father? Is it the money? What are his motivations?
Well, it really is. That's a really good question. I think, well, number one, you have his father. His father's pushing him into conning, and his father is his only family, and his father has been his source of his foundation and is one of his best friends, and his father has a hold on him. You also have the fact that he can't just walk away from all this, because then he has to either leave Kat or he has to leave Lindsay, and those are huge motivating forces in his life. He's in love, really, truly in love with both of these women. So if he leaves the con world, then he has to leave one of these worlds, and he doesn't want to do that. But then I also think that there is a part of him that, as good of a heart as he has, which I believe he does, I do think there's a part of him that does like the lap of luxury and does love, this kind of sexy world that he lives in. And so I think that there's, like any human being, there's a lot of forces pulling on him, and that are going to affect him in certain ways.
Yeah, the adrenaline of pulling something off like that must be incredible.
Yeah, there's an adrenaline that goes with it.
This is certainly a new twist on love triangle.
Right.
Do you see fans kind of pulling in one way or the other for Lindsay or for Kat?
You know, I hope they do, and I hope that it happens like scene by scene. Like I hope that when you're watching, similarly to the way that Bob is feeling when he's with Lindsay, that's who he wants to be with, and that's who he's with 100%. And then when he's with Kat, that's who he wants to be with. And so I hope that the audience, when they're watching it, is behind him in that sense, that they root for Lindsay when he's in Midland, and you know, they want him to have that backyard barbecue apple pie existence, and then when he's with Kat, they want him to have that sexy, wealthy lifestyle. So and they're so different, I think, too, but they're both such good people.
Yeah.
I think that's why he's so conflicted too, is that they both have such good hearts, and hopefully they'll be characters that the audience could see themselves being friends with.
Or in love with.
Or in love with.
Which I think is what's going to happen.
I was thinking of the ladies.
Between
I was
her
thinking of the ladies.
and Adrian, yes, they are going to absolutely fall in love with these two. It's very easy.
But that there's no evil love. Mm-hmm. One of them, they are on equal stature as far as their hearts go. That one of them isn't the